Alrighty. So, hopefully you watched the first episode in Ideology Week where we talk about First Samuel and how in the Bible having a king was so bad precisely because they feared being conquered, and therefore that led to the loss of everything they cared about because that's what kings do. We all know kings are bad. That's why we don't have them anymore. But but that doesn't convince everyone. And so, this is why in the 20th century we saw a rise of a new ideology called fascism. And fascism is bad. Everyone agrees with it. And so it's easy to point to them and say, "Oh, aren't they so dumb for wanting fascism? Aren't they so gullible and such losers for saying, "Oh, well, I want to be taken control of. I don't want any freedoms. I don't want to have any good life." Like, it's easy to say that. But here's the thing about fascism. It too is running away from fear towards something that they believe will solve that fear, will make that fear go away. And this time, instead of pure military strength, it's a little bit more abstract than that, a little bit more abstract than with kings. Because with fascism, the claim isn't that merely that your military will be strong and that's why you won't be conquered. With fascism, it's a bit different. It says your government will be all powerful. It's that if you raise the state to the level of godhood, where there is everything is in the state, of the state, is the state, and nothing outside the state. That's what fascism believes. And so, as long as you're willing to be a cog in the machine, then fascism will work great for you because you'll feel safe and secure and protected. You just won't be you anymore. You'll be a piece of the state. And so that's the difference. And I thought, as before we jump into this topic, I want to just read you some Mussolini quotes, precisely because fascism is one of those things we know about, but we don't really delve into because we know it's bad. So why would we look at it? Because it's bad. But here's the thing. You know it's bad, but do you know why it's bad? And that's what we want to look at today. So first Mussolini quote is, and this is a pretty vicious one. Let us have a dagger between our teeth, a bomb in our hands, and an infinite scorn in our hearts. So, like I said, fascism is bad. Fascism is a religious concept. Like I said, raising the state to the level of godhood. That's what fascism's all about. To create a perfect harmony between all the people and the government. That is what fascism is all about. Perfection. This is why Hitler was so racist. Because he was seeking perfection. He wanted perfection. But why did he want perfection? Because he wanted safety and security for him and his people. The slogan for Hitler was a chicken in every pot. Because people were having a hard time. They didn't always have meat. But a chicken in every pot. We will reach this state of perfection past scarcity, past us being conquered, past any issue from anyone. That's what fascism is about. And here's the last one I'm going to share with you. The truth is that men are tired of liberty. And that's the thing. With fascism, that is the belief. People are afraid of losing what they have, and so they give everything they have to preserve it. But what are they preserving? They've already given everything up. They've given everything they have to the state. And so there is nothing to preserve anymore. There's nothing to fight for because you lost it all. And this is the issue with fascism. And this is why the fascists are so mad and they're so angry and they try to hurt so many people. Because maybe, just maybe, if they hurt other people, then they can feel like they're valued. They can feel like they matter again. And this is why fascism leads to the worst kind of tyranny. Because when you are a fascist dictator, not only are you in charge of everything, not only do you get the say-so of everything, but everything, everyone, everything is part of the state. Which means you own them all. They are your property. Because you own the state. You're the leader, after all. So you can do anything you want to them. And the reason that I'm talking about Mussolini instead of Hitler is because, first of all, Mussolini was more purely fascist and gives a better idea of what fascism truly is, because Hitler had this whole other racist whatever ideology on top of it. But fascism doesn't really care about race inherently. It just cares about perfection, perfecting the state. Now, if you're a racist and you hear perfecting the state, we'll probably get rid of all those inferior races, right? That's the logic there. And that's why it always leads to racism in the end. Because if anyone thinks that biology has any purpose, any differences, any diversity in humanity, which of course there are differences in humanity, diversity in humanity because of biology, absolutely, everyone agrees with that. Well, then, if things aren't quite right, you can just blame it on the biology and just say, just get rid of those people. And it's okay to do that because they too are part of the state. That the state is judge, jury, and executioner. They can get rid of anyone they want, anyone they don't like. And here's the thing. For a while, you can trick people. My wife's grandmother actually lived in Italy during Mussolini. And she was like, she grew up with her house being bombed, and she like ran away from the house as it was being bombed. And so you can understand why her nerves were a little shook. Right? And in fact, for the rest of her life, she slept with one foot off of the bed just in case that bomber came back. So that way she could get up and run away from the explosion. So that's the type of person she was. So shaken by her experiences. So haunted by them. She was so afraid. And when she lived under Mussolini, and Mussolini came to power, she said, I don't know what he's doing, but it's obviously working. because there's less crime, there's less people causing problems. Things are orderly. Things are taken care of. I don't have to worry anymore. And this is the thing in fascism that people do not understand because they are not willing to understand. That the reason they allow these dictators to do these horrible things is because they're afraid. They're insecure. They don't know what's going to happen next, and they want that security. And for that security, they are willing to give up everything. Because it's okay if your money doesn't go to you. It's okay if your family, if your brothers and sons get drafted into the military. It's okay if your neighbors just disappear and never come back. It's okay because you feel safe. And that safety and that security is all that matters to someone that stressed, that anxious, that afraid. And so this is exactly the point of this week, this series. It's not to say fascism isn't so bad, because it is. It's absolutely bad. It's terrible. Read my lips. It is terrible, okay? But understand why it's terrible, so that way you don't do it too. Because when someone takes away your family, and someone hurts you, and you want safety, and you want security, you better understand why fascism is bad. Because otherwise you're going to want it too. You will become a fascist if you don't understand this. And that's why fascism is still around today. Yes, everyone universally says it's bad. And that there's still people who identify as fascists. It is the most obvious and universally bad ideology. Every single person in the world is saying, yeah, fascism's bad. Except for the ones who say, but I don't have any control over my life. I'm constantly afraid. I'm consciously anxious. It would be great if someone could just look out for me. Just have my back. And if the government's the one to do it, well, hey, maybe I like the government. And that's exactly the thing here. Understand that your fear is what chooses your ideology, and you have to be very, very careful of where that fear would lead you and what you are willing to do because you are afraid. And that's why we're starting off with fascists. Because it's so obviously broken, so obviously wrong, that it's hard not to see it. And the people who don't see it are blissfully ignoring it. They are closing their eyes and shutting their ears so that way they can be blind and deaf and not worry about the evil that's being done. Because all they want is to feel safe. And they are willing to sacrifice everyone to make that happen. So just don't do that, right? And as we go throughout this week and we talk about the other ideologies, we'll learn that this is not the only type of fear. There are other fears, other concerns. Because we are humans. And we have so much potential, so much greatness within us, that it is only natural to fear all of it being taken away. Just don't live your life driven by fear. Live your life for good, not to avoid bad. Because if you avoid bad, and that's all you're about, more than likely, you're going to avoid it by any means necessary. And that can lead you to a very dark place. And that's the lesson that we learn from fascists.